to a show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. And y'all know it's me, it's Dante. So, for this episode, I want to kind of get back to talking to teammates from where I train at Crazy 88. You know, because I go through those spells. Sometimes I have folks on, then I'll jump around, go talk to people from Australia, shit like that, which is cool too. I love the Aussies. They're really fun. They got cute little accents and things like that. I don't think they like listen after the episode, so I can say what I want. It's fine. But now we're back home, and I've actually been getting some shit about not having you on sooner. I've been getting a lot of shit, specifically from Chris Tran. So anytime he sees someone else from Crazy 88, he's like, and Timmins is just sitting there waiting in the shadows. He keeps calling you Hawkeye. So for this episode, I want to welcome to the podcast, Brandon Timmins. What's up, man? How you feeling?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the time and coming out and doing this and not giving me shit when I was like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? And you're like, man, fuck no. You waited too long. Like,
no, I figured you'd get to me when you get to me. You know, it was always fun when like Chris Tran was always posting like, oh, where's Timmins at? Like, especially when you did that episode with who is it, Vanessa, Christian, and Kai. It was like, oh, where's the last Avenger?
See, and the thing is that came about because I was like, Vanessa, I need to redo your episode from what she was episode 104, and it was really messed up because I was supposed to be off from work. I had to go into work. So I was like, well, we're going to still get this episode in. So I used my phone, and it just sounded horrible on my end. So I was like, you deserve better. So let's wait 100 episodes later and get you back. And she was like, all right, that's cool, but can I suggest also doing like a group episode? And Kai and Christian just happened to be right there. I was like, yeah, go, like, bring them on. So as we're setting up and Chris Tran finds, I was like, what, no Timmins? And I was like, I mean, I'm just the host, dude. I don't know anything. So, and I was like, all right, well, look, like my first thought was, let's do another group episode and then get you in there. I was like, well, no, you know what? No. We're going to give him his own series. He's going to get his Disney Plus series. So here we are. We got you. We cross paths at the gym. We don't effectively like train or like go against each other. You like, cause you like, you know, in those high level classes where I be looking at y'all like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, being on the competitive track, you know, I'm always hitting like those classes. So like I'm getting over to Elk Ridge some, and then I'm also training over at OM as well as SP, just really doing, you know, the full cross training at all three locations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to get better. You just got to train everywhere. Train everywhere with everyone. And, you know, it shows because, like, I've been over there on Sundays when we're all drilling. I seems like, okay, that's a different level. like whenever I see any of y'all, especially like y'all younger and stronger, I'm like, there's the ego in me. I'm like, oh, I want to roll with him. And when I see you rolling, I was like, okay, that's different. Hey, he's inverted. I'm not into that. Okay, I don't know how he got there. All right, that's cool. But it's still a fun challenge in the mind. It's like, we just leave it.
To like try and figure out like what all is going on. No, I get that.
It's a puzzle. But I guess hopping right into it for me, wanted to know like what got you here into jiu-jitsu and Crazy 88 specifically?
So I've been doing sports like pretty much my entire life. Like, you know, I bounced around with like, you know, the major ones, like did like T-ball growing up, you know, things like that. Then I got into football, played that for a few years, and then was starting to, you know, not have like as much interest in the football. And I was like, oh, let me try lacrosse. Then I played lacrosse for a few years, and during that time as well, I actually got into wrestling. I would have started like doing wrestling and more combat-based sports earlier, but for me, I had a medical deal where the blood vessels in my nose were actually like on the surface. So pretty much any small real contact, my nose would bleed. So when I was like in 6th grade, I ended up getting my nose cauterized to actually correct that. So then that following year, I actually started wrestling. So I started wrestling my 7th grade year through my senior year. And then obviously, well, I'm gonna date myself a little bit as a youngin, but graduated class of 2020, so we
Oh,
all know
make
how.
some noise for that. I like having the soundboard.
For sure. So, graduated class of 2020, and so there really wasn't much going on. Plus, two, I kind of not really fell out with wrestling, but kind of was just needed a little bit of a break just because I was in that grind for a while with that. Had a little bit of just kind of like differences in opinions with some people, so I was just like,
Sure.
Plus with the girl I was dating at the time, she was more immunocompromised, so I was trying to be safe for her and whatnot. So I really wasn't doing much for like, I guess about, what was it, year and a half, something like that. So then ended up getting to this low point where I was like, shit, I need something to do. And I reached out to a buddy of mine because he had mentioned back in senior year that he used to train at this place, but he knew it as Ivy League. So he actually knew the SP location back when it was Ivy League.
Okay.
Him and his brother used to train jiu-jitsu up there. McGuire and Jameson Ballard.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was like, oh, why don't you go up to Ivy League? So one night I had hit him up and I was like, hey, what was the name of that gym again? And he was like, oh, call up Ivy League. But at that point, the switch had already got made to 88.
Yeah.
So then, I called up, talked to Chrissy, and, I got set up for one of the Thursday gi classes, came in, and just doing the warm-up felt at home to me. I was like, I just feel comfortable. I feel at home. So I stuck with it ever since. And then, I want to say, what was it? About 6-7 months later, I started competing.
Okay. Nice, nice. As a wrestler, jumping into the gi, how was that for you?
At first, it was definitely hard just because it was like getting used to all the gripping and whatnot, and like actually being able to hold the clothes was a whole new level of treachery, per se, to the game. Uh, Not only that, but just with jiu-jitsu, being comfortable on the back. That was one of the biggest things, and that's pretty common across all wrestlers. Like, because in wrestling, once you're on your back, match over.
Yeah.
So it was like getting comfortable on the back was one of the biggest things. But honestly, early on with my training, I was like, okay, I have the wrestling background. Like, I know I have all of this. I want to delve into the guards and get good at the actual jiu-jitsu because it's like, that's the sport I'm doing now. So it's like, I'd rather spend my time instead of, keeping up on the wrestling foundation, actually building a true jiu-jitsu foundation. Plus, two, with the weight that I compete at, because, white belt, I competed at light feather, and now I'm competing at featherweight. I'm in the little guy division. All they do is pull guard. So it's like, well, might as well get with the times.
Well, that's something I always wonder. Especially with wrestlers coming over to jiu-jitsu, it's like, do you impose your wrestling on them, or do you say, you know what, if I can't beat them with it, then join them? And it's like you say, you're in that small division, so everybody's pulling guard. Is there ever that moment where you're like, you know what, I just want to dump this dude on his head and let them know I'm here?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, well, we've been doing a lot with Elkridge because, like, the way that IBJJF works is, like, you can get, like, that cheap, too. Like, if as they're pulling, you get, like, that ankle grip, and then as they're pulling, it makes it look like you get a takedown, and you can get that cheap, too, right off the pull. I've been loving that because I've been going for low singles, like, in the room all the time because, like, I know people will pull. So, like, I'll do that, collar ankle grip and just, kind of shoot, pull that way.
I think there's a while back. I think we were probably still Ivy League, where that was brought up. Like, if somebody goes to pull, well, no, it wasn't even that. It was if they go to pull, like, I think it was Mahoney saying, like, make noise, like, just make noise and, like, kind of shift yourself a little bit, and every so often the ref will give you the two. It was like really? It's almost like, when they're pulling, you kind of get your knee wedged in there, but also take their foot and, like, throw it across.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're gonna get your two for that. I was like, but you gotta go make the noise. You gotta I was like, really? Because I don't really want to make that noise. but yeah, it makes sense though that because you see it, like, on Instagram. I'll see it a lot too. It's like, sometimes you get both people that'll pull, but then the one of them kind of comes up a little bit, and it's like, okay, there's your two.
Well, yes and no. So like in the double pull scenario, they only get an advantage with IBJJF rule set. But the thing is, they have to do it within 20 seconds, or they're both going to get stood back up and both get penalized.
Oh, you get that much time? I didn't.
Yeah, when there's a double pull, the ref will look at his watch and be like, "All right, you got 20 seconds before I stand you back up."
I thought it was like a lot. Like we were like, hey, make something happen. Like you got 3, 2. Like all right.
Yeah, it's about 20 seconds before like they'll really start like being like stand back up. Both guys will get a penalty, then you'll restart, and then cause, like I've seen it go like 3 times, and then both opponents have like 3 penalties apiece. So that's when they're like, all right, now we got to work.
Yeah, and I guess out there does come a point where it's like, all right, we're bullshitting now. Like, are we here to do this, or are we here to grapple?
Right.
And
Well, part of it gets into because like some people are just, especially when it gets into some like people are more bottom players. So it's like if you get 2 bottom players, they're willing to eat these double pull penalties because they're just like, no, I want to be on bottom. Like I don't necessarily care if we get penalized a couple of times.
I mean, I guess I get it. I feel like at some point though, it's like, I guess you want to impose your games. Like, look, I'm the guy playing from the bottom. I'm gonna sit here, but I feel like, hey, won't you, you know what? You want to play the bottom? Well, my top game's a lot stronger anyway.
Right.
So I'm gonna go ahead and make that work. But I guess it's also different in the lighter divisions too.
Yeah, I mean, because like I really saw that with Devin Riley's run at the Worlds this year because his finals match went that way, and Devin's actually been working on this where he actually kind of does like a repull. So he actually forces the guy to come up in order to, so that way then he gets the advantage and he's completely comfortable with the other guy having the advantage because he's very comfortable with his system that he's developed for the bottom.
Okay. I mean, again, that goes to the point though. It's like, well, look, I've got something I'm working on. I want to be here. I'm going to be here. Versus, like, I know in my mind, it's like, oh, you going to be there? Well, now I'm going to make you pay for being there. Like, they eat all 215 of these pounds. But I lost some weight, so I'm at 200 now. I was rolling yesterday. I was like, you going to feel this weight. And I was like, shit, I'm light now. Fuck. Like, But even still, it's good, though, to have that ideal. Now, for you, like you say, you've been working the low single, a lot in the training room. Like, how's that translating, like, for you out competition-wise?
I mean, I didn't really do it too much at the Worlds, like in my match, just because, it's the Worlds. I just want to go back to, like, what I know and everything. I'm definitely going to start messing around with it more, like, at the regional level, just so then I can get more comfortable out on the competition scene in that regard. But also right now, just being that, I've been a blue belt now for not even 6 months, somewhere in there. Just trying to find, like, my specialization where, like, I really want to devote my time to within my game has kind of been like, I'm in like that kind of searching area because like, I'm like, oh, I have this, but like, I got talking with Master Julius the other week and because he had asked Kai and Chris Tran about, kind of like how my game is and being that I'm still kind of newer to the blue belt scene, I still have like a more well-rounded game. So it's like my top game and my bottom game are both pretty equal.
Yeah. And that's something that I always find at blue belt. And I'm a forever blue belt. I'm probably going to stay blue belt forever. That's fine. I'm a hobbyist. Eventually, I'll be like, look, this dude's been fucking working hard enough. Just give him like a purple stripe on his blue belt. But like at blue belt, that is that kind of that moment where it's like, all right, you've made it to the point where you're in jiu-jitsu. And I know there are always the jokes about blue belts quitting, but you're committed to learning this art. And now it's like, as you want to grow with this art, it's like, okay, now that I'm a blue belt, what is my game as a blue belt? Because a lot of us, we get there and we're just like, we can do all the things. We learned all the things at white belt to get to this point. But a lot of us kind of get stuck there, though. We're like, and I know for myself, in that instance when I got my blue belt, I was like, okay, I know all these things. And I'm trying to like take in all this information. And at no point did it ever click to me. I was like, like figure out what like you can branch off of what you're good at. It's like, okay, well, I think when I was coming up, like they're like, let's go into lasso, heavy lasso. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a lasso guy. Started going to lasso, and it was like, huh, oh, we're inverted now. I'm 40. Like, I know we got a lot of older dudes that they get into that game, and it's like, I even look at them, I was like, damn, dude, chill, you 50. Like, you know you ain't gonna feel good tonight when you get home. But I mean, you know, once you get to a certain point of it, it's like, all right, well, you know, where do I start branching? Where do I start building? And is there a path back? You know, even though you've built here, is there still that, you know, path for like, okay, I can change it up? Because you don't want to, I guess, spread yourself too thin.
Right. And like Joyce made like a good analogy right before the Worlds about it. Like, you know, for some people they have like almost like that gimmick move. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, case in point, like Muhammad, he's got a very good footlock and it's won him tournaments with it. But you know, now he's really got to start branching out because he's got, you know, just this one room that's really finished. Like, you know, if we look at like jiu-jitsu game as like a mansion or like a house,
Yeah.
one room is very finished, while the other ones you just got like your lawn chairs and your cardboard boxes all in it because you've kind of been neglecting them. And that's kind of what Muhammad's dealing with currently, is trying to build his other parts of the game. Because like for me, the house is kind of like halfway finished because it's like I've built up a lot of different areas, but now it's like I got to dedicate to like, you know, making the kitchen really nice.
Yeah. I always like whenever I just get to sit and listen to Julius talk, because he'll say some like analogies, and I'm like, I never thought of things that way. And now that I'm thinking about it this way, I'm gonna think about it forever. Then he'll say something else, and it's like, well, shit. Now I got something new. It's like Kelly Bundy. You get some information added in, and you lose information that was there before. So, but yeah, you know, I like the way, you know, that sounds though too. It's like when you look at like the ideal of the house. It's like, oh, you know, I painted that first bedroom. It's blue, if we will. Let's go paint the next one and start building. But again, never forgetting, you know, those other things too, because I think that kind of can get people trapped too. Though it's like, all right, I got this down. Now let's, you know, move to this, and it's almost like you forget that previous stuff. It's not that you forget it, but it's like you're so hell bent on making the new thing work. It's like I can never go back to this. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah, I guess in some regards, like you can almost think of it as like a skill tree on like a video game.
mm-hmm.
You know, just like, okay, I'm gonna start putting all my XP here, and we're gonna branch out here. But then, oh wait, I can tie in this branch over here to this other one that I really haven't started building. So, oh, let me build this up, and now they're both connecting. You know, and kind of building that game that way.
That's see. I always tried to think about that with Diablo when I used to play Diablo back in the day. But the problem was like, oh, you've got, you know, a fire stork. Do you want to? If you start a fire stork, you can't branch off to lightning. I really like lightning, and I think that's where my brain gets trapped. It's like, well, I have to go here, and I can never go back there now because all your attributes for lightning, nothing's gonna match up to your fire at all, which is kind of fucking dumb.
Right. I mean, because like, you know, kind of the same way with like let's say like Dark Souls or Elden Ring for that regard. Like, you know, some people just do like pure strength builds or
Mm-hmm.
you know, pure dex builds. You know, in that regard of like just they're gonna put everything into that. But it's like when it gets to blue belt, from what you know both Coach Keith and Joyce have told me, it's like, you know, yes, at blue belt you want to kind of do that, but then at a certain point you then want to build everything back up.
Yeah, you got to catch up eventually. Like, well, I mean, you also get. Well, I don't. Maybe it's not so much this way anymore. Like I know we used to have like new guys would come in, and all they wanted to do were leg locks, and we're like, dude, you gotta, dude, like you don't even know how to get out of side control. You want to do leg locks? All right, like relax, like fucking chill. But that was always like the new guys like mine. So I was like, God, I just really want to learn leg locks because I guess you know see a little bit of YouTube and
Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing right now. It's actually interesting with, especially the way that this world's went with like there was a lot of leg locks and like butterfly ashi, single leg X, as well as toe holds and things of that nature at the black belt level in the gi.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to like no gi, where like it used to be like the big fad, but like really now it's just kind of switched over to like more heel hooks and things of that regard. So it's like the leg lock game is kind of starting to fade out in the no gi, but it's starting to really get revived in the gi, which is was interesting to see.
I think when they started really letting the leg locks in at IBJJF, I think there's like this excitement. It's like, oh, we can do this now. Heel hooks are available, for certain, certain belts. It's like it's here, like we can do it. And now, as you're seeing, it's like, okay, yeah, we got that out of our system. Like let's now test it here, over on this end. Also, I mean, just trends, and not saying that leg locks are a fad. I mean, it's part of the game, but it's like of your interest, like we're saying, you start branching and learning other stuff and adding new things to your game. So the leg lock, it's always going to be there. But what other tricks can I pull out here? And if I need to, I'll fall back to a leg lock. So fuck it.
Yeah.
Can't pass guard, just leg lock. I can't pass guard. So maybe I should get better at leg locks. I can. I can pass guard. Don't get it twisted. And right now, for you training wise, like your mindset, like, do you have any like pre competition like rituals that you do, like to kind of like either amp yourself up or bring yourself back down?
So actually I started playing with that with the Worlds this year. Because before the Worlds and really like pretty much all of the tournaments that like I did at white belt and the past like 2-3 that I did at this year, I would predominantly listen to just like metal. So like Bad Omens, Motionless in White, Beartooth, Wage War, to name a few. Just like
metal,
right, like metalcore, stuff that's got like the screaming, just those heavier elements, just to like kind of get me hyped up and just kind of get in my zone. Because like I've always listened to metal, like that's just kind of been one of the genres that I've always like kind of fallen back to, just because of just me delving into my own like music taste and whatnot. So it's like I feel like at this point like metal is kind of like, it's just kind of like, I guess in a way muted itself to me, because I'm like, I listen to it so much that I'm like, I just enjoy it,
Do you ever like scream like when you're like getting ready, just like start screaming with the song and people look at you like, the fuck? I don't want to.
No,
I
usually just I'm like just quiet in my head, just like head banging along with it, just
that's scarier.
Keeping with it, just listening to the songs, because like one of my go-to songs was Dethroned by Bad Omens. Just starts off the rip, just heavy growl going into the lyrics, and it's just screaming most of the song. Like that's like that was one of my go-to songs. And so going in the Worlds this year, granted probably shouldn't have, but I mean I felt very calm going into Worlds. There's a band that I listen to called Sleep Token, and they do a lot of genre blending. So I listened to, really it was like 3 songs from them, like really like right before I walked out of the bullpen. It was like the last 2 minutes of The Summoning, Granite, and Aqua Regia, which have a lot more funk elements to it. And I was just kind of, just vibing in the bullpen, and I was very calm, just just getting ready, staying calm, then walked out and fought, and really didn't have any nerves competing at the world level.
Nice. I know with me going into just training, I would always listen to like Sade, like R&B, like smooth music. Because when I first started training, I would go in and listen to like just a lot of hip hop, just like amped up. And I come in, I was like now like kind of burnt out, but then I'll come in and listen to like calming music, go in, and then I get my bass and start building. And then after I leave, depending on how bad I got my ass kicked, I'd put on, all right, well, let's go ahead and put on some Outkast, let's put on some Wu-Tang, but if I got my ass beat, it was like, I'm just gonna listen to this fucking Alicia Keys on the ride home, and just come home, my wife be like, so how was training? Go ahead and hop in the shower real quick. I don't really want to talk about it. It's Like, damn, that bad? You see like the gi marks from like getting fucking bow and arrow choked all night. Like, oh, he listened to Alicia Keys in the shower. He must have got his ass whipped. So, but maybe I'll start rocking some metal just to fuck with people now. Like, God damn it, Dante and his fucking music. Like, you can never figure him out. Or West Side Story. What's up now? But that's interesting though. Just kind of going in, with that take. So I know a lot of folks who listen to like music, but and never really know. It's like as you're listening, like what's going on in there. Like, are you just listening to the music, vibing, getting ready, or are you like thinking about, you're just kind of in the moment, just like this is my moment right here with my music. This is all that matters. And how does it affect your nerves going in? Because that's kind of always a curious thing to me, is like nerves going into anything. Because I competed once, the nerves hit me like a motherfucker. I felt good the whole day. I was like, let me go piss real quick. And I heard my name across the speaker. I was like, fuck. And then I got out
shit,
there.
I gotta do this now.
It was like, I look at coaches like, get grips. Oh shit. Like, okay, now what do I do? Oh, I'm on the ground. Never mind. That's now I have to do jiu-jitsu. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I was definitely nervous at white belt. Granted, going back to like, me wrestling, like, I've had the experience with competing and all that, so like, it wasn't too big of a change, but like, I was still having some nerves like going into it.
sure.
So when I tore my labrum in my left shoulder after New York last year, I spent a little bit of time reading the Inner Game of Tennis just to really work on like the mental side of competing and whatnot, and like, really kind of, separating the conscious and subconscious mind. And going into Atlanta in February, kind of like really my second real tournament back after my injury, I was, no, third tournament, I'm sorry, because I did a Naga, then a Grappling Industries, and then I did the Atlanta Open. Going into that Atlanta, I was just letting my body do jiu-jitsu. I was just
Good.
like, just not really trying to like consciously think about it, and letting the conscious mind kind of mess up what the subconscious knows. Because that's kind of one of the things that the book goes into, is just like your subconscious mind knows how to move your body, and it has all the muscle memory, and like, that's always been the thing that like they talk about in the room. It's like doing this stuff, and especially in like a hot, strenuous environment when like you are fatigued, and just letting your body do it. So I think when you do go out onto the mat for competition, like you're still just letting your body do the movements. Like, where you want to be, but your body's going to take you there.
You're like on autopilot.
Yeah.
So, which is always, I mean, that, it comes down to your training at that point. If you train a move enough, like you train that knee cut, the knee cut like it's your name. You're going to make it. In Mahoney's class, we always working on Kimura. Kimura nonstop.
Oh, he loves those Kimuras.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's to a point now where, I mean, I've always liked the Kimura, but like training with him, it's now I love the Kimura. It's like, it used to be, the Kimura's a cute little thing to, kind of slow him down, catch my breath. Now it's like, I'm just going to live in this fucking position, and we going to get where we need to be from it. But, I mean, it's autopilot now.
Yeah.
It's like immediately grab, and I'm here, and anything that you do, it's almost like my body just reacts. Okay, oh, I've got kind of like, we're in that, what he calls Netflix and chill position. Like, okay, you're going to sit up. All right, well, I'm going to your back, or I'm going to make you do what I want to do. So, yeah, having that autopilot, when you've trained something enough, I think is super duper important. And just goes to show your training. It shows off your training at that point, because you could be out there. I think when I started, I had one of the guys, he pointed out to me when we used to do mock matches, just like at random. Like, we didn't even know what was going on. We're sitting there training, and then we just hear two names get called to the middle. What the fuck?
Good old matches of the day.
And then one of the blue belts, he pulls me to the side at the end. Was like, I saw a dude, paralysis by analysis. I was like, what? Oh, I was like, you froze because you're thinking. There's everything flooded in. I was like, you know, find something, train it, and just your body goes there. And you know, I wish I would have known that. And I was still early on, but I wish I would have known it even earlier. Um, is there anything like now as you're, like you said, what 6 months into blue belt? So you're still, relatively early in your jiu-jitsu journey. But at this point, is there anything that you feel like you wish you would have known, like stuff that you know now you wish you would have known it earlier?
I feel like it definitely the like some of like the mental game stuff that like I really started to do, like especially towards like the end of white belt, like because with my shoulder injury I wasn't really allowed to compete for like 3 months because they were just like, with my injury it was like, hey, you can either do surgery or do PT. But I went to got a second opinion. He was like, don't do the surgery because it could make it worse. And I was like, that's all I needed to know. I'll go to PT happily. And so with that, I was just, very much just absorbing a lot of information at that time. And being that I wasn't competing, I had a little bit more downtime, so I was able to, do that kind of more like, I guess, research into things like that. That's definitely one thing that I wish that I had started or knew and kind of learned like earlier on in my white belt days, as well as just weight cutting properly.
Yeah.
Because former wrestler, I did a lot of tournaments, just doing the old wrestler way. It was rough. Because one of my problems always is like I get tunnel vision during the day. So it's like, especially as, for me, I work in a blue collar field. I pretty much always have. So it's like I'm constantly moving throughout the day. Like at the time when I was first starting to compete, and like I did my first IBJJF, I was working as a boat mechanic down in Edgewater. So like I was getting like 15,000 steps a day, just walking around the marina, doing stuff, all that. And, middle of summer in Maryland, it's hot. So like weight just falls off of me fast. Because like originally I did sign up for featherweight, which is, 154 with the gi. Stepped on the scale about 3 weeks out from New Haven because that was my first IBJJF. Stepped on the scale and I was like, I want to say I was like 141 or 142.
Jesus.
I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to cut. I'm like, there's no point in me trying to fight at featherweight because I am literally so light at this moment.
So, for the weight divisions, like, is there a minimum? Like, what's the minimum? Like, you can be away from like the number,
I mean, generally speaking, like,
or not minimum, but like kind of going like so at 154 is like, okay, well, if you're under, how much under can you?
I mean,
be?
really, you like for a lot of these, like especially like a lot of these guys that they are cutting down. So it's like you want to generally be like either like 154.6 or like 154.5, like pretty much right on the money.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's kind of just been my deal recently just because I work a full-time job, but I'm still training, 6-7 days a week, just doing more of the jiu-jitsu side. But, haven't found, I wouldn't say, yeah, I guess I really haven't like found like a good balance to add in like strength and conditioning and all that. So like the best way to kind of look at it for me is like I'm a big light featherweight, but a small featherweight. Because walking in the world, especially those couple weeks leading up to it with work and whatnot, I was floating around, maybe 4 or 5 pounds under.
Okay. So, yeah, it sucks. Like, cause yeah, if you're the light featherweight, or if you're like a smaller featherweight, it's like, okay, well, you're gonna have some bigger boys up there. So
Right, and it's like they're generally stronger because like I felt that at the world. I was like, dang, this guy's pretty strong, and I'm like, trying just to use technique, but it's like at some points you're just like you got to kind of brute through it. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm giving all I can give, but it ain't enough.
Well, yeah, like I watched you Match from the Worlds, and I saw there was a point you had the De La Riva, and I'm like, I see you. It was like, yeah, it's like the technique is there, but there's just a point where, like, no, I mean,
Well, especially during that point when like I actually did knock him down because I was doing like almost like a Leandro Lowe De La Riva with the spider um, hook, and like I got him down, and I was as I was switching to get to that K hook, he was starting to pressure back, and I was like, no, let me feed this back, and then I went to what I've been more comfortable with slash been working on since like late state or my later months at white belt, which is De La Riva X. So that like Marigali hit against Lowe in the Worlds in 2017, 2019, somewhere in there, where you feed both legs across and you're hooking both legs.
I got you.
So I've been working that system a lot, and actually that was one of the things I was doing before the Worlds, and really after either after the first Atlanta, like just drilling my offside De La Riva and my offside De La X, because that was my offside on that, and I still got up for that single.
I always wonder about, you always hear in jiu-jitsu, it's a backhanded compliment of like, oh, you're strong, like you're really strong, or you don't need to have a lot of strength, because again, when I came in, I was like, I'm strong, and it was like, yeah, you don't want to use too much strength, but then there's this balance of like, you got to be strong, but so have it in your pocket. And then, like you said there too, working your offside too. It's like there's so many little fucking like things that it's like, shit, I got to think about this. Oh no, I got to think about this. Oh, I got to think about that too. And it's like for you as a competitor too to be able to kind of know those things, work on those things. I think that's super impressive, and working full time. So it's like, damn, dude, like we were kind of joking about it yesterday as class was ending, not joking about it, but like kind of talking how the competitor mindset versus the hobbyist mindset, where it's like all those like little things there. It's like, damn, dude, like I think about them, but I don't like implement it. It's like, huh, okay. It's like if I'm gonna weight train, it's like I'm gonna weight train. Like I want to be Gordon Ryan strong. Like I'm not Gordon Ryan good, but Gordon Ryan strong. I want all the supplements from Mexico, all of them. Put that shit in my fucking Wheaties. But but that's me though. It's like I'm either here, or it's like, hey, you don't want to be too strong. It's like, well, fuck those weights. I want to get technical. And then it's like, listen here, dickhead. You can meet in the middle, and it's good that you have that awareness. And I was like, well, I'm in this division. Those bigger featherweights are going to be stronger, and you feel that difference versus just kind of like rose-colored glasses. Like, it's all right. I'll be fine. Like, no, they're gonna keep being bullies. Brandon, don't let them bully you. Fuck those guys.
Oh, we trying out here. No, because that's kind of always been like my, I guess, problem, especially coming from the wrestling background. Like, I always never really ate enough. Like, especially during the wrestling season, like, I never necessarily had to cut, but like, I definitely was, skirting that line of anorexia with like just not really eating a whole lot. Because like, I competed at 138 in high school. That was my weight class.
Well, I feel like too, though, with wrestlers especially, that's always been kind of a controversial like topic, is the weight cutting. But I remember in high school, like just seeing the dudes just walking around spitting in bottles. Like it's like, damn, dude. And my best friend, he eventually started wrestling. He was a weird guy. He was like, he played football all 4 years, and one day he was like, I think I'm gonna do wrestling. Okay, cool. And then one of our good friends was heavyweight, but so was he. It was like, okay, well, he's like muscle. It's like, but the other one, he's wrestled all 4 years. He's the captain. So, nah, buddy, you've got to drop down. And like getting that dude to drop down, Like I'm watching this dude trying to cut, and I was just like, yo, you're treading into some dangerous areas because he wasn't being safe about it at all by any means.
No, I
But
mean, when you think about it, it's dumb high schoolers.
yeah,
Like they don't know how to properly lose weight, and like that's something that I've had to learn recently. Because like I actually did like my weight cuts correctly going into the Orlando Open and the New York Open. Because like I felt great going into those, even though like I was still kind of really like on limited calories, but like I did the weight cut way better, and like I was still eating a good amount and like still actually getting calories. That was like, oh wow, this is how I'm actually supposed to feel. Cool. Like, yeah, it was great.
well, like I think that's the thing too. Like Huggy, I remember years ago, he fought at 145, one of his MMA matches, and someone asked him was like, well, why don't you just fight at like like at this point he might have been like 160, like maybe in the 50s at this point, and one of his friends was like, well, why don't you just fight at this weight? I was like, well, the thing is, the guy that I'm going against is cutting down to this weight, and he's going to hydrate back up to this weight. So now imagine this weight, and I weigh this much, but my opponent is going to hydrate like Frankie Edgar.
Yeah.
He was never cutting weight at 155. He was just showing up, but all his opponents were like 170. So, but it's like the weight cutting thing for jiu-jitsu is a little different because it's not like
It's a lot.
well, yeah, a lot different actually.
Because MMA you get day before weigh-in,
Mhm.
where it's like they can drop like what is it, almost 10% of their body weight really going into
Probably
these
more.
probably more because they're spending all that time in the sauna. They're doing those true water loading and getting all that water weight out. So that way, then when they step on that scale that Friday night, it's like, cool, I made weight, but now I have 24 hours to now rehydrate because hydration also takes 24 hours.
Mhm.
So they can start rehydrating like literally the moment after they weigh in. And they have plenty of time for their body to actually rehydrate and actually be functional for the fight. Jiu-jitsu is a whole lot different, especially at the IBJJF scene, because you have maybe all of like 10 seconds, depending on like what time you actually check in. Because like I've had it where like my name's been on the bottom of the board, and like I'll go to check in, start drinking some electrolytes, getting some carbs in me, all that, and then maybe about 5-10 minutes later they're calling my name out.
So yeah, so basically once they weigh you, it's like, all right, like it's time to go. Which, for MMA, I think they actually even have longer now because I think they weigh in like they can weigh in like Friday morning. So it's like because you'll see Alex Pereira was like, oh, he weighed in at 205. Then the night of the fight he's 230. I was like, what? Like at that point, I was like, what are you doing? Like, but whatever. It's like Joe Rogan says. It's like it's legal cheating, basically. It's like to some degree, it almost doesn't make any sense anyway. To like, hey, let's cut all this weight to trick the scales. Say, hey, we weigh this much, but then the next day you're fighting at a much heavier weight. It's like, why don't you just fight at that weight?
So that's also the thing that like all these guys are doing, that they're all cutting like that 20-30 pounds to get down to whatever weight class that they're actually fighting at for these MMA fights. So it's like, if you can't beat them, join them in that regards, because, exactly like Huggy's point, it's like, I'm cutting down to here, but we're both going to be floating up relatively the same, so we're both equal.
Yeah.
It's like getting into that.
Well, even like at one, like they do the hydration test. I think people are still kind of like skirting that as well, and they're like, like.
Oh, I mean, they made us do that in high school too, but it's like they only test us once, and it's right before the season.
Oh wow!
So, I forget what year they really started doing that, but it was prevalent when I was in high school. So they would do what they called weight certification, because with us cutting weight and all that, really the safest amount of body fat percentage that you should have, like minimum wise, is 7%.
Yeah.
So what they do is, and literally this is what we got told, like even by like my freshman year. It's like that day, just drink a gallon of water. Just so then you can just kind of trick them to be like, oh yeah, cool, you're hydrated. Move on to the next part. So you do your hydration test, then you walk into because they used to do it, or I think they still do it, but over at Old Mill High School.
Okay.
They do it over there. So you go into their wrestling room, and then they check your height. They write it on a little paper. Then you step on the scale. They input your height and your hydration level, as well as your weight as of that day, and they calculate what your current body fat percentage is, as well as what the minimum weight that you can be at 7% body fat.
Yeah. I'm glad I never wrestled. It's that simple. Like, I thought about it, and then I was like, I saw those motherfuckers walking around. I was like, nope. You guys look miserable. But they could all fuck me up too. So there's that. It was like there's give and take.
Yeah, there was a certain level of suck that we all just were like, yep, well, we'll eat this because we're fighting each other and we're getting better.
I remember I want to say it was middle school, for RPE, we had like a wrestling chapter, which was like fun. Like, we're all kids with rough and tumble, and and we got to wrestle. And I remember for a brief second, I was like, that's something I'd like to pursue. I get to do this. And then once I got to high school and saw that shit, and I was like, I'm just going to stick to football. Let me get all the muscles. Like, I wasn't ordering supplements from Mexico. It was in the 90s. If you got to order some shit, you got to like send a letter, and then like that takes like weeks, and then it takes weeks to come back, and then but not that I would be looking to get any illegal substances placed into my body to better my healing and muscular build. The GNC had stuff, if you know, you know. For you, in your martial arts journey, jiu-jitsu specifically, have you looked at or considered doing any other things like Muay Thai or anything, or just strictly grappling?
Just strictly jiu-jitsu. Like, one of actually my assistant coach for high school wrestling, his brother Matt Hicks.
Oh.
He was over here doing striking and all that. So, so like I actually went and saw one of Matt's fights like way back in like 2019 when I was still in high school and didn't really know much about 88 at the time. Which like part of me was kind of like, damn, why didn't you just go pursue that? Like, you kind of had an in.
It's the right time.
Yeah.
The timing wasn't right.
I always think about that too, where I'm like, damn, I could have started sooner, but I'm like, no, I appreciate when I found this when I did.
Yeah. I think we're ready when we're ready. Like, I was joking with the buddy a while back about, man, I wish I would have found jiu-jitsu. Or like, I was aware of jiu-jitsu like 95 or 96 because UFC started in 93. Remember my buddy who took Taekwondo, his parents, just like, here, watch these like cage fighting videos. It'll be fine. You do martial arts. Like, it's not okay. We're children, but it's okay, I guess. And then they ordered, I want to say it was UFC 5. Might have been 4 or 5 that they ordered. We got together and watched it. And it was like, oh shit, that's awesome. So, we were always aware of jiu-jitsu in that early element with Hoist Gracie, and then other fighters kind of coming up with it as well. But I think about, like, man, I wish I would have found it earlier. No, I don't. Like, the ideal of the ego, especially then at 15 and 16, I would have got my ass whipped, and I probably would have, like, who knows what I would have done. Like, I know I wouldn't have pursued it later. I was like, this was fucking dumb. These fucking guys in their pajamas rolling around, like, fucking balls in their face. Like fuck out of here. But, like, me finding it in my 30s, it was like, okay, I'm ready to pursue this and accept what comes with it. And I think, same for you, because had you jumped in, a couple years earlier, let's say, even though you have the, the wrestling background, maybe, you would have said, maybe I want to go into striking. You're watching, Hicks out there fighting. It's like, maybe I want to, jump to striking, go out there. It's like, maybe not. maybe not striking, and now that taints your ideal of fucking around.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always joke with people. I'm like, listen, I eat enough elbows and knees in jujitsu. I don't need to add anybody intentionally trying to throw them at me.
CTE is a real thing. I'm learning that now. I got kneed in the fucking mouth yesterday, and because I have a broken tooth, I'm not going to the dentist. Don't don't do that. My wife doesn't listen either. But if she heard about this tooth, she would kill me. But I have a broken tooth, so my mouth guard won't fit. It's simple. Just get a new mouth guard, or probably like adults probably know it's simple. Just go to the fucking dentist. Can't do that. Can't stop, won't stop. But I don't wear a mouth guard now when I'm training. I've been doing well, and then yesterday caught that knee right in the mouth, and I was just like, in that moment, I was like, dude, I'm about to be spitting out teeth, like the front ones at that. That was good. It was fine, but I was worried. I was like, oh my god, like I'm not even worried about a concussion. I'm worried about my teeth because how do I explain that to my kid? Like, I don't know. She'd probably just tease me. You know, she's a brat. But yeah, the ideal of striking is like, oh, I'm just gonna willingly go out there and let somebody hit me in the head. It's okay. Like, oh, I guess, I mean, they're body shots too, and those things fucking suck.
Oh, but for sure. Like, you know, especially when like you see some of like these like more Muay Thai and MMA fights, like especially like Ratang.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that he's scary.
Yeah,
Like he can just eat all that, and you're just like, whoa.
like he's walking into shots. Like, come on, give me more. It's
like I saw the
I don't
one
want
highlight
to.
reel where he was just like kind of like knocking his own chin,
Yeah.
like kind of
Yeah, and
dancing
he
with.
shimmied. And it was like,
Yeah, I was like,
oh no.
I'm like, nope, I'm walking away now.
Yeah, at that point, I don't even know what to do. It's just like, how do we handle this? You look at your coach, like, what do I do? This dude is scary. There was a dude last night at the Stellar fights, took a knee right to the solar plexus, and it just shut everything. I think so. There was another guy I couldn't see from my angle. Chrissy said that he got elbowed in the throat. My buddy said that he got elbowed in the body. I don't know which way, but it ended the fight for him. And in my mind, that's where I think, hey, jiu-jitsu's a thing. Judo's a thing. Sambo is a thing. Why don't you guys grapple? Wrestling is a thing. Just go grapple. You're not catching elbows in the throat. I mean, you are, but they're not like
They're not hitting with force. They're just more
like
there to
like jamming. Like, okay, you just hold this motherfucker right here for a second.
right.
But, the offer's on the table though. If you ever want to do some Muay Thai, hey, if cross paths with Mahoney, he's gonna try to get you to do it because he keeps telling our class. Which I went to Muay Thai last Saturday. I didn't go this Saturday, but I'm gonna go back to it just because it's helpful with footwork. I think. But I guess it is, but it isn't. Like
yes and no, because like especially because because like we spent like I think it was about 2 months just on grip fighting, and one of Keith's favorite lines that he would say because like with wrestling and jiu-jitsu because like that was always a thing like because I did like a boxing class once and like that was always the issue for me was switching my stance because right hand right leg lead your left leg's got to be forward for striking but in jiu-jitsu and grappling it's the right leg.
Yep. And that's what Mahoney said to me last week when it was like, I'm standing there. And the thing is, I've done striking classes before, so I know the right way to do it. But because I'm just jiu-jitsu, so with shadow boxing, he looked at my face like, Dante, what are you doing? I was like, dude, it's my first time back in maybe 5 years. Like, don't fuck with me about this. He was like, I'm going to let you get away because you're a jiu-jitsu guy. And, then I switched my stance. But I know for me, there are times like standing up, we're fighting for grips and everything. I'll go for a Muay Thai clinch and just get in real tight and then go for a foot sweep. So for me, that's where I'm like, oh, this can come in handy. Actually, I remember watching Mark go to one of the new breeds. Like he was a white belt, went in there with a brown belt and did just that. Muay Thai clinch, sweep, got the dude down and then started working. I was like, so there are those elements, to that degree. But also as Mahoney does point out, it's like, some shit goes down. You want to be able to at least, dodge a punch too. I was like, yeah, good call. But also, just for me, I go in there just for the extra work. I was like, it's fun. It gives me something to do.
I
Get
mean,
me
for
out of the
me, I'm
house.
training, jujitsu
Yeah.
every day of the week. So I'm like, I don't really
Well,
feel like
yeah,
it.
it's like you're one specific thing. It's like I'm here for this. It's like, hey, you want to do Muay Thai? It has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. Fuck out of my face. Also, I ain't letting you hit me in the head today. I got shit to do tomorrow. Like I can't be concussed. Which good choice. Good choice. Don't do it. All right, we gonna do a quick round of Would You Rather. I was trying to as we were talking beforehand. There's like no jiu-jitsu specific Would You Rather's, which is something I'm gonna work on now. But there's some sport ones that kind of play into it a little bit. And knowing that you've played sports, I should have actually grabbed some of those other questions. But we're gonna go with some simple ones. The simple ones starting off, not sports related. Would you rather, in real life, be in a version of The Walking Dead or Jurassic Park? And don't do what my wife did when I asked her this question. She started overthinking and coming up with all these other scenarios. Like, look, lady, you got to pick one: zombies or dinosaurs. Like, who you running from today?
I feel like I definitely would pick the zombies because the dinosaurs can fly. And that's the other
Yeah.
thing. It's like, yeah, you can try and run, but those dinosaurs will be running faster than you.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, have you seen any of the Jurassic Parks or the Jurassic Worlds? Like, you're screwed.
yeah. Like every time I watch those movies, my first thought is this should be actually a really, really short movie. Like, the movie should be over in like 30, maybe 45 tops, just because. All right, we got the dinosaurs. Yikes! And now the dinosaurs are taking over. More yikes. End of story. Zombies, that's easy to fucking deal with. Like,
Or like especially Walking Dead because like they're more like slow walkers,
they're shuffling.
right? It's not like Last of Us or World War Z. Like
Yeah.
I would be scared shitless dealing with those.
If I saw zombies that ran, I'm probably going straight to self checkout at that point. It's like, you know what? I don't know. Like, people get excited about that idea. Like, ooh, zombie apocalypse. It's like, COVID kind of showed us that we're not built for this. Like, hey, so do you have a weird call for a runny nose? Yeah, you should probably stay home. I know, it's all right. I'll just cover up like this. That's how the zombie
Well, I feel
bite
like
started.
also the deal with COVID was it was just everybody was kind of sheep to it because like
Yeah.
you know most of my family was just kind of we're all blue collar, so it's like we had to work.
Yeah.
We were working through it all. And like I know a couple of my family members who got it a couple of times and were completely fine. So it was just like, okay, this really isn't as big of a deal as what they're making out, and we all know half of it was a money grab. Like,
Oh,
sorry, not to
yeah.
get political, but like,
No.
that's just how I feel.
Well, and that was the thing too. It's like my family, like my grandparents specifically. I remember like in the very beginning, my grandfather got some back issues. I was like, hey, I got some CBD. I took it over to him. They couldn't force me out that door fast enough. I was like, all right. And then I was like, you know what? I got you. Phone calls only. It'll be okay. Because that's how we only communicate anyway. Whereas like my coworker, she got it. I ended up getting it. I felt like shit. But I bounced back. Well, one of my buddies on another podcast, he got it. I think like he was bad off, but he recovered. But he didn't have, I think, taste.
Yeah, I know it's like taste or smell. Like some people just like do not get it back for like
Yeah.
the longest time.
I think I can't remember which one, but he didn't get it back for like months. I was like, dude, like, like the only reason I eat pastries is for the taste. Like I'm not eating pastries because they're like, oh, I just want fucking honey buns in my mouth. No, they taste delicious. Like I can eat 6 of them in a sitting. I'm not gonna do that. Maybe. I figured it out. They're like, Americans are fat. Give them something where they lose taste, and most of them will stop eating, unless they're just fucking got a problem. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I like pizza. I only like pizza for the taste. Really? Okay, let's test it. Takeaways taste. People are probably like at this point listening to us like these motherfuckers. Like turn this shit off. Them and their COVID talk.
We out here on a tangent.
Dude, that's this podcast. It's nothing but tangents most times. Like, I think Chris Tran and I started talking about the action figures at one point. It was like, yeah, Like, oh shit, jiu-jitsu, we're back, we're back. All right. Would you rather adopt a British accent every time you have to have a serious conversation, or would you rather laugh every time someone cries?
British accent. I'll have to do that because the sad part is, well, I wouldn't say I do that, but like eh, I'm usually pretty good about being empathetic and sympathetic towards people. So it's like I'll take the British accent because I've had a couple of British teachers, but granted they were also assholes because they're
British.
British.
They do. Um, yeah, like I said this one to my wife, and we all picked the same one. But I was like, every time I'm in a meeting at work, and I have to like give a comment or answer a question or have a point to make, I don't do it. But in my brain, before I start talking, I feel like I have to do it in a British accent to make the point that, hey, I know things too. Meanwhile, I don't have a good British accent. It's fucking dog shit. Number one. And number two, most of my opinions in work meetings, they're just like, hey, guy, you should probably just sit there and keep taking notes, buddy. Like, don't contribute because we're going to tell you right now, we're not going to take your suggestion. Would you rather win the MVP award or win a team championship?
I feel like MPV or MVP would be better just because like especially in something like the sport that we do because like it's more individual based and that was always something that really drew me towards like wrestling and all that because like I did team sports and all that and like you get kind of tired of like coach picks his special 9 players and that's the A team because like that's one of the things that kind of like messed me up in 8th grade when I played because like I got good. I had like high schools looking at me and all that.
Yep.
I mean, granted, I didn't pursue it, but it was just like I was getting real good at lacrosse, and like I was some of his A team guys. I was crossing up, and I was doing really well.
Damn,
But
like that.
just because essentially before the tryouts, he had his team picked out because they all would do like the travel leagues and all that. Never really got a shot to be like playing at kind of like the I guess next higher level of like rec league.
Yeah, I definitely get that. That's always a problem with team sports where it's like, all right, make yourself undeniable. And it's like, yeah, you work hard to get to that point, and there's still that chip on their shoulder where it's like, okay, we know you're good, but you have to keep proving yourself over and over and over. Whereas in our sport here with jiu-jitsu, it's like, well, you can prove yourself because you're out there.
Right. It's like you only have your training to fall back on. So
Yeah.
it's like when crap hits the fan, it's like that's all that you got.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you go out there and bust your ass and you win, that's you. If you go out there, bust your ass and you don't win, that's you. It's like it's not a matter of I didn't get a fair shot.
Or like the weakest link over here didn't really do his job or anything like that, and like kind of pointing fingers and like don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of players that like they're really good at team building, but it's like
yeah.
but it's still like some people just kind of fall back on like we some of our weaker players didn't necessarily show up to help out the strongest players and like kind of blaming it that way, but it's just like that's why I've always not necessarily not liked, but like it's always kind of like turned me off to more team sports.
There's also like looking at like football. We always talk about this on our other show, mainly because my buddy is a Washington, whichever team it is now, fan, and it's always shade towards the Cowboys. And we always talk about Troy Aikman, how like he's got Super Bowl title, he was the number 1 pick. But it's like when you look at his numbers, he actually wasn't the strong point of that team. He was just a quarterback. He never won MVP. He never won a pass. He never had the most passing yards, most touchdowns. He's never done any of those. But everybody thinks, oh yeah, that guy was this guy. He was like not the weakest link, but he was definitely not the guy that moved.
Yeah, and I feel like also when it comes to football too, because like I don't even really watch football anymore. Honestly, like I want to say maybe in high school I really started getting away from it. Like don't get me wrong, if a game's on, like I'll watch it and like stand there and be like, see a flag get called, and I'll be like, yeah, no, that wasn't that penalty, or like Yep, that definitely was. You know,
Like you
things
know
like
what
that.
you know what's what.
Right. And but like with football, like I don't know, I guess it's like their marketing or whatever, but like they really do put like a lot of emphasis, like especially on like quarterbacks and
Hmm.
things like that. But it's like you're talking about, you know, teams that have how many players? Was it
What,
12 guys on the on one
11
side?
on offense, 11 on defense.
Yeah,
So what? 22 total. It's like no, I get what you're saying because I get mad whenever we're talking about like, well, this quarterback has a losing record. What about his running back? That running back was on that team too. What about the defense? I mean, because the quarterback and my brother-in-law does this every Thanksgiving. We're Detroit fans, so every year, my brother-in-law comes and like, Jake, what Detroit gonna do with Stafford this year? He's the reason they lost. I was like, well, he didn't fumble that ball on the 1 yard line. He didn't let up 30 points on the defense. Like it's not just on that dude. And then when they traded him, I was like, Jake, how you think Goff's gonna do? It's like, probably just as well as Stafford. And just off the stats, they both got traded for each other and then some. They have the same exact stat, like the same exact numbers.
yeah,
Like so, it's like he did exactly what he did, like on a different team. But it's not all just on him. It's the coach.
right. And like that also kind of gets into because I grew up in a Washington household. Granted, you know, we've all kind of gone away from it, but you know, this was something that me and my dad always talked about was like you can't just fool because like you know Washington would always be like, oh, we're gonna get like RG3 or like you know, whoever like this next one is, you know. But it's like you're not actually devoting your time to like more of the core people, like the offensive line, who need to be protecting your quarterback, so that way then the quarterback can actually do what he needs to do. That was always our thing. Was like they're not putting their resources where they actually should.
Yeah. I think we get glamorized with this ideal of the star player, the quarterback. So it's like when I played football, I played eventually defense, and then like out of high school, we would do like flag leagues, neighborhood football. Like we get enough people to like actually have O lines, and nobody wanted to play the O line. Everybody wanted to be receiver or quarterback, and on defense, you want to be the D lineman. You never want to be corner. And so I positioned myself to be an O lineman because no one else would do it.
I mean, even with my small stature, like when I played, I was a center.
Yeah. The thing is, yes, you got to be bulky, you got to have some strength, but footwork matters, but also just protecting, just getting away. And, for me, it was a matter of, well, I don't need to be the star. I just need to make sure that this dude behind me has the time that he needs. And eventually, I think folks start seeing that when we would play. Because I remember I was playing O-line and somebody tried to now we're on defense. They tried to hey, go play corner. I was like, no, I earned this. I was here before and I'm going to stay here now. Like, you ain't going to push me to the side. And as we, started playing every Sunday, with the same group, more people started kind of getting with the idea of like serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Like just find somewhere to contribute and find somewhere to help. So like with team sports, you do kind of have to have that idea of like, what am I doing? Worry about yourself. Like that guy over there throwing the ball. Yeah, we want to protect him. What are you doing to protect that guy?
Right.
So another tangent. My bad, y'all. Would you rather, so we can bring this to grappling here.
All right.
All right. Let's say it's the EBI, Eddie Bravo Invitational.
God, I hate that rule set.
Well, you're going to love this one then. Would you rather ensure that you're going to get to overtime and play it safe? Or would you rather just risk it all and win or lose, you're going for it in regulation?
Oh, I'm going for it.
I figured you would. As I was pulling that question up, I was like, I got a feeling he's going for it. This is an overtime guy. This guy's like, look, I need to win. I need to win now. And if you don't win, oh well, I tried. I went for it. Because there is a thing to that. It's like Detroit's coach. This motherfucker goes for two every chance he gets. It's like, All right, hey coach, you can go to overtime with that kick, but we could win it if we just go for two. Yeah, or you can guarantee over. We're going for it. Like you gotta win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially like if we turn it to like the EBI rule set, like it's such a weird yet dumb rule set at the same time, because it's like when you do the regulation matches, they tend to be shorter than the actual overtime periods, because like when it's all said and done, you're spending so much more time actually in the overtime scenarios compared to your actually submission only regulation match. So it's like, because like you get some people who are very much in that meta of that rule set, so that they'll be like, oh cool, all I gotta do is survive for like 5-6 minutes, and then I can just ride them out or submit them on the back or from an armbar in overtime. Like cool.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. It's like a lot of different promotions are seeing that, and I was like, let's go to that. And like you said, it was like I just got to survive, and then you get set in a position where you're given a submission. It's like, oh, like I couldn't earn it, like I couldn't get that position during regulation. There's no opportunity for it because
Right, but now I'm gonna get given this.
now you're gonna hand me that position now. Okay, bet. Oh, spider web, perfect. I'm taking this. And there are times where like the guy on the bottom was like, okay, cool, they survived that, but now you're in a position where it's kind of tit for tat. You're just going back and forth, where now, like you said, that goes longer than a regulation. So I personally find it entertaining because I'm like, huh, okay. Like it's almost like fuck that regulation. Let's just do this, because what's the point of this? Because a lot of those matches go through all of that just to get there. Because like I said, they probably know, like, I'm just going to survive.
Yeah, I mean, like, really, when it gets to any rule set, like, there is some form of meta, because, like, especially being that we just got done with the gi season, like, we've been playing with the whole meta of the IBJJF rule set, and, like, what all tactically needs to really be done for that rule set and, like, for these tournaments. And then, you can get into stuff with, like, ADCC and, like, how their rule set is different, and, like, the meta involved with that.
Well, like, I mean, it's all in what you're shooting for too. It's like if you say, "Hey, I'm training for ACC." All right, then that's what you're training for. I know with us, we do a lot of the IBJJF tournaments, and it's like, why mess with any other rule set if this is what we're majority going at? I mean, you'll have like Sergio doing ADCC. Did Eli? I think Eli did it. I can't remember. But we have guys who.
Yeah, I mean, ADCC was actually cool, and like it kind of sucked just because I was out with my short, because I wouldn't have mind going to do that ADCC Open that was with the East Coast Trials.
Yeah,
because I was like, damn, that kind of looks like fun, because like could have done intermediate really, and because they were letting heel hooks live. It was like, oh man, I get to play around like I do in the room. Cool, like let's go.
It's like heel hooks. I think that's another weird thing though too, because it's like certain training where you almost kind of like, if you're not messing with like heel hooks and leg locks, period, you forget that they're a thing, and then you get out there in a competition and somebody slaps one on. It's like, oh shit, because there are times in the gi I'll leave my leg out there because I know you can't do anything to me. I mean, you get a straight ankle lock, but I mean, you can't heel hook me, and I'm out with straight ankle lock. I can play with that, but you get in that situation, no gi, and you forget. It's like, oh no, I'm in a bad spot.
Oh, trust me, Tuesday was fun just because, really all of May I was just dedicated to gi. So like Tuesday at Serrano Park doing no gi, I'm like, crap, I kind of forget how to play this and stuff, because I'm like, I don't get grips. I'm like, what? Where's my grips?
Like, I think in no gi I only have like 2 things that I really do, and it's like, and so far with like the newer guys on Friday night, they don't know, so I think they're hip to it now. But I haven't been there the last 2 weeks, so maybe they forgot. I don't know. We'll see. So I was like, hitting them with butterfly sweeps left and right. I was like, oh my god, like, you guys don't know this, do you? Oh, you're young. All right, cool. Now that they know it, now they're gonna beat my ass next week. It was like, oh, welcome back, old guy. Would you rather play an amazing game but lose, or play an average game and win? Oh, okay.
I feel like playing an amazing game but losing just because. I mean, granted, they both really kind of like mess with you mentally because it's like if you play an average game and like you still win, you're just like, okay, cool, but like you almost feel like you don't deserve it
Yeah.
in like that regard because like I kind of felt that way after my first IBJJF, um, because like my first round in, um, guy pulled me into his closed guard and he ended up getting one penalty because he had his fingers inside my gi. So he got knocked for that. And then, I ended up, I think he got a sweep at one point. And then with like, I think it was like 10, 15 seconds left in the match. All I hear, Keith, Navarro, all them, they're just like, shoot, shoot. And, as a wrestler, I was like, all right, cool. I was like, let me just blast double this guy real quick. Got my two, so that I ended up winning the match. So, I literally won just because he had a penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, my second match, I won via submission, and then me and Lance Lorenzo, I haven't seen him train in a while, but him and I closed out that bracket, and but just kind of afterwards, like really that week after training, I was just like, I didn't really feel good about that win, like and like actually making it to the finals. I was just like, it just
Didn't
messed
feel
with me.
earned.
Yeah, it didn't feel earned. Like I felt like I should have lost that match, like all that type of stuff. So it's like, going into this, would you rather? Like I would rather have an amazing performance because it's like, I earned my way up and like I gave it my all, but like, okay, I came up short. But it's like I know that I gave it my all and like I did good going through that entire tournament.
There's always kind of the ideal of like playing average and skating by. The thing I hate the most in sports and everything. My wife, she not an athlete. She doesn't play sports. Never played sports, so I don't think she gets it. It's like I can't stand losing by one. It's just because it's like there's somewhere along that line is like, what did I not do along this path to negate that 1 point loss? It's like in basketball, that shit kills me because like, did I fuck up a layup? Did I turn the ball over? And granted, again, there's 4 other dudes out there with you, but it's like, again, what can I do to help this team?
Yeah.
And if I didn't contribute in some, like it again, a turnover especially, and then you lose by that one, it's like fuck. Versus like you busting your ass, you hitting all your shots, everybody hitting all your shots, and the other team is playing just as good. As like you just got 2 warriors out there now. At that point, you got 2 groups of cats out there battling. It's like, so you really earning it. And if you lose, it's like you go out on your shield. Whereas like you get that snake win, it's like what's that gonna look like next round?
Right.
Like if you well, the first and only time I competed, I won on a last second bullshit. The dude like let go. I rolled over into side control. I don't want to go into the specifics. I've done it enough times on here. I'm sure people are sick of hearing it. But I ended up winning 3-2. And then the next match, fucking got dog walked 5-0. This dude just manhandled me. I mean, I guess, for the benefit of it, I only lost 5-0, but the fact is I couldn't generate offense at all. I had nothing. And it's like I snaked by in that first win, going into the next one, it was like I don't know if I deserve to be here. You look at that other dude, it's like look at the way he's standing. Okay, he fucked me up. But yeah, would you rather meet your childhood sports idol today, or play your sports idol 1-on-1 or whatever? Play against them in their prime.
Ooh.
I don't know if I have a sports idol. Like as much as I love sports, I just realized I don't know if I have a sports idol.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have players that like I would follow because like there's one that like I still follow even though like I don't play lacrosse. Paul Rabel.
Okay, familiar. Weirdly enough.
Well, because he's close with like Bill Belichick, and like he just recently started the Premier Lacrosse League, so like
Yeah.
he's doing a lot for the game of lacrosse, which is very much impressive because like he finally just, or I mean I wouldn't say just him, but like he was definitely one of like the key elements to like actually help getting lacrosse big enough on the world stage again to actually be a part of the Olympics, because like that's what's going to be.
Nice.
They're going to be playing men's and women's lacrosse at the Olympics this year.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, because he was always cool, and like I just recently, because I want to say three-ish weeks ago, he just released a book called The Way of the Champion, and it was like a good 6 hour like listen through, because like I was working, I was like, oh, let me put this in 1.5 speed, just kind of
Yeah.
grind through it as I'm working, because sometimes it's kind of more mindless stuff with what I do, so I can just kind of like pay attention to it as like I'm doing stuff. And his book enjoyed that book because not only did he talk about like on the competitive side of like things that like the athlete should be doing, but then also for like the last, I want to say like third or quarter of the book, he was talking about what to do when you're done competing,
Mm.
which was actually
That's
really interesting.
important.
Because you get a lot of people that are like, okay, cool, my career's done, but now what? Because that's kind of what he did, because he played from a very young age playing lacrosse, and like he actually got to one point when he was still at Johns Hopkins. He could have played for the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick, because he's very close with Bill Belichick, but he decided to stick with lacrosse because they were playing for the World Championship, and stuck with lacrosse through his the rest of his career. And because one of the biggest things with lacrosse, and kind of similarly with jiu-jitsu, is like there isn't a lot of like recognition for the sport,
Yeah.
and like a lot of like help for like the main competitors that are like actually doing it, you know especially like on the jiu-jitsu side, like tournament fees, traveling,
Yeah.
lodging, food, like all that, like it adds up in a year. And with lacrosse, there originally was the Major Lacrosse League, but really wasn't like built for the players. So him and his brother, they made the Premier Lacrosse League, which is a league for the players, built by the players. So the players get a lot more benefits from the league, so then they can actually be a little bit more like sustainable themselves within the league.
I always think about that with sports leagues, because I remember like Major League Lacrosse. Like I remember seeing that from time to time, like growing up, and I was like, oh, they have a league. That's cool, but you never heard about it. There's no promo. There's nothing. It's like it's not a vehicle to make money. Like when you look at like the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, you know, even kind of the WNBA. Not really. But the thing is like these leagues, it's always like a TV deal. You know that's where you get the first thing. Your commercial deals and stuff like that. Whereas like jiu-jitsu, we're not getting that. Lacrosse, I mean, there's sparks every so often, and now you're relying on this outside source for income, and it's difficult because you got people that are like, I don't want to invest my money in that. Like, what returns am I going to get?
Yeah, and that was all, and it was actually one of the things that Paul Rabel brought up in his book, was talking about just like essentially like the barrier to entry, especially with lacrosse, because before you even start, it's not like basketball where you can just literally show up with like a t-shirt and shorts and a pair of shoes, and then you can go play on the court.
Yeah.
Lacrosse is way different, because you have to go buy a helmet, chest pad, elbow pads, gloves, cleats. You have to buy all this stuff, and it all adds up. So like he's actually built a program to kind of help get more kids involved in lacrosse, to kind of help build it up, because
Good.
people can donate old equipment for for upcoming athletes, then they have the opportunity to then try lacrosse and see if they actually like it, without having parents spend all of like $300+ on equipment unless you can somewhere find it secondhand.
Yeah, that's it's like sports for kids in general. Just gets it's costly. We our daughter now she's in theater instead because I think my wife wanted to put her in soccer. I was like, that's expensive. I was like, so theater's expensive too. Don't get it twisted. That shit ain't cheap either. It's like well, let's put her in jiu-jitsu, and my daughter wanted to do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay. And at the time, like scheduling was just goofy where I used to work. I was like I'm not gonna be able to take her.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, well, like it's gonna be during this time. I was like, oh Jesus Christ. Like, all right, fine. Fucking put her in theater. Like, go put her in theater. You know that's not going to help her when she gets bullied at school for being a theater kid. She's
yeah.
homeschooled. She still gets bullied. Like, it's me. I'm the bully. But yeah, the kids sports are just, if there's not like an avenue for them to get into it, whether it be because it's expensive or just the interest in the area too. It's like it is tough. So having a program like that, because you never know. You introduce a kid to lacrosse, and like when I moved to Delaware from Michigan, it was the first time I ever heard of lacrosse. I saw a kid, just throwing the ball against the wall at the school, and I was like, "What the fuck is that guy doing?" And then I moved here, and then that's all I saw. I was like, "Yo, what is
One
this?"
of the biggest rivalries is University of Maryland versus Johns Hopkins. They literally have like a whole just dedicated like kind of like trophy, and it has all the different years that they played and who wins.
I remember like getting here, and it was like Navy, University of Maryland, Hopkins, UMBC, University of Maryland Eastern Shore. It was and that was like the top 10. And then Syracuse was in there. I think Rutgers like snuck in. There's like things like I was like, Jesus Christ, like the top 10 is all like Maryland. Like, what else y'all got?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to lacrosse, I mean, it really is kind of more of a East Coast like sided deal, just because of the Native Americans. Because especially like when you get up to like Syracuse, you have the Iroquois Nation, and they're one of like the biggest like players when it comes to lacrosse. Because lacrosse used to be the creators' game. It came from the Native Americans, and it got developed into what we know it as today. And because like there was, God, this was back when I played. You had Miles, Lyle, and their cousin. Anyway, you had the three Thompsons. They were all Iroquois, Native American. Played up at where did they play? But like up that way, I think at Syracuse, but they were just killing it.
I think when I was coming up, I think it was the Gates brothers maybe at Syracuse as well. Because my neighbor, he loved Syracuse and he also loved lacrosse. He'd always talk about Mark Gates, and I was like, okay, buddy, fucking put on his football helmet. We're going up the street and playing because this is what we have: a football and some helmets, no pads. Like, we're gonna learn about some CTE today. They ain't even a thing yet.
Safety third.
No, safety? What the fuck's that? Like, we're not doing safety, but yeah, it's. I think, especially in our area, lacrosse is like well known. Hell, I got a lacrosse stick at my grandparents' house. I was like, I didn't even play. I just had a lacrosse stick because that's what we did. Like, just throw the ball around a little bit. Do you know how to play? Nope. I know how to cradle, but that's all I know how to do. I can run. Like, anything else? Nope. I can play catch. But yeah, if you introduce shit, to folks at an early enough age and properly, who knows what you can build. I mean, again, jiu-jitsu being one of those things, it's funny when you see little kids doing jiu-jitsu because it's on the little kid level, so it's not even like them doing jiu-jitsu. It's just learning the movements and like playing on the mats, but it's super cool to see it. And then you wonder, is like, how long does that continue on? Does it pick up later? And obviously the parents are kind of the influencer because the parents have to take the kids there. They have to continue to pay for it. They have to continue to nurture that. So to a degree, it's like you got to put that on the parents too. Like, yes, you can introduce it to the kids, but now it has to be up to the parents to kind of keep nurturing it for the child if they're interested, because there are kids that are like, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore. You're gonna fucking go.
Yeah, and
that's
like
even
I've
worse.
always kind of had like I've even had some of the parents like kind of bring that up to me where they're just like, um, like, oh, should we kind of force it? I'm like, no. It's like if he wants to do this, he will want to be here, but like he has to kind of find his own stride with that and
Yep.
like find his own real like inspiration and drive to actually do this. That's always something that I bring up because like there was one kid at SP, he doesn't train there anymore, but like his dad was always pushing, like doing so many privates with a lot of the coaches and all that, and I'm like, this kid's gonna get burnt out by the time he's 13. He's 9.
Oh yeah,
Like just they were so driven on trying to win the kid's pans, but it's like the kid's pans are only a small part of it. Like just get him better at jiu-jitsu. If the win comes, the win comes, but then he can go on to juvenile and then go try and place at the adult worlds, and then he can go on to adult and still place at the adult worlds.
you gotta keep it fun for the kid. Like trying to force them, like kids especially. Like as you get older, for teenagers, young adults, winning, or just chasing that can be fun. But for little kids, it's not fun. That's not like what they're into. You get the occasional sociopath that's like 8 and they're like, I want to be world champ, and they're doing everything to do it, and that's cool-ish. I think I'd be if my kid like was down that path, I'd be like, yo, that's pretty cool, but I'd be a little like worried, like, hey, like just like she wants to be an actress. I was like, okay, that's cool. She just had her first production like a couple weeks ago. That's super cool. Like, all right, like High School Musical's next. She's excited. I was like, all right, cool. Like, you got homework though. Like, don't fucking forget that. Do
Right?
fucking
It's
homework.
like don't let it
Yeah.
absorb your life. And I feel like for me too, like kind of getting into that, like especially with jiu-jitsu and like finding it when I did, like trying to find like that balance, and like sometimes people don't appreciate like, oh, you don't know this and this. I'm like, you do realize I do spend time outside of this gym. I'm like, I have adult responsibilities to take care of.
They, that's a weird thing with balance though too, because it's like, I talk to folks that they'll come on a podcast and they're dropping all types of things. I'm like, dog, I've never heard that. It's like, well, it just happened yesterday. Okay. I run 3 podcasts, like, and they're not all jiu-jitsu, so and sure, I should probably be a better podcaster when it comes to jiu-jitsu stuff. But half the time, this isn't even a fucking jiu-jitsu podcast. Half the time, we're talking about, I don't know what we're talking about. Like, let's talk pro wrestling. I don't watch enough
That's
pro
why
wrestling.
it's off the mats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always kind of a weird thing where like we get it's like super jiu-jitsu heavy. It's like, hey, shouldn't you guys be talking about shit off the mats? Nah. Like, we're here now. Like, this is what we're committed to.
Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yeah, dude, we've had some conspiracy episodes that got deep to the point where I edited that shit and I was like, we can't even put that out. Like, because like I don't know, if somebody like CIA catch that shit, they might, we might get a knock on the door. So there's a couple episodes where I think I'm gonna kind of splice them. Like, look, this is just like that bonus episode. Like, that sounds weird. It sounds like somebody cut something off when they start talking about the Mandela effect. Just chill. We don't want to dig. But yeah, all the same, keep your balance. Just understand, everyone in general, because I have to work on that balance. I just had a burnout with the podcast stuff recently, where I was losing my mind. like and my wife told me, was like, you got to balance yourself, dude.
Yeah.
You got to figure out, like, devote this time, devote that time, and then just spread it. Like, where we get so many people, we get driven. We're like, I gotta be here. I gotta do this. Like jiu-jitsu, you get kids. Get those parents that want to drive that kid. Like, you're gonna be the best grappler ever. Like, Dad, I'm fucking 9. Like, I just learned how to tie my shoes the other day, and now you want me to fucking tie my belt and fucking do a berimbolo? Like, No, like I'm growing. My feet are going to get too big. I'm going to be clumsy. My feet are going to outgrow me, the next 2 years, and then I'm going to just be stumbling and running into shit. Let me like grow into my body, and then let's pursue being a world champion. Because Pan's kids, it's like that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
that's
really
what they
cool.
do. Now you got to go play with the juveniles.
Yeah.
They've all been doing it at the same time as you.
Yeah, because like you can win that and then just peak there. That's it.
Yeah.
Is that as a parent, is that what you want? Because that's probably what you'll get. You'll burn that kid out right there. No, they're like, fuck jiu-jitsu. Like, I think Ronda Rousey went through that a little bit. I think by 11, she wanted to quit judo. Then, things started kind of like spiraling and going out of control. And she, found her way back to MMA. And, we all know the story. But that's Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
That's one individual. We're not going to all get those types of players. So, just chill, y'all. Chill. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you for doing this, man. Thank you for making the time. Before we get out of here, you got any shout-outs or mentions that you want to drop?
Well, I guess shout out to Chris Tran for pushing you to finally get me on the show.
I'm going to put him. I'm going to tag him in the show notes on that too.
He'll probably mention it to me at some point when this thing drops.
Well, so now I feel like, okay, like for the episode covers, like, do I go and try to like Photoshop like you into the Hawkeye spot somewhere, or do I just do what I normally do? Go spy your social media, find a good picture, like edit it a little bit, and then like off the mats. So, but shout out to Chris on that. Anything else? That good? All right. Well, thank you for that, and
Thank you.
as usual to the listeners, thank you. If you got any questions, concerns, criticisms, always feel free to reach out. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram as well. You also email offthemats2020@gmail. Some folks have emailed and, asked to be on the show. That's cool, but I'm going to be honest, don't email. Like, I check email twice per week, and if you send me some shit on Monday, I won't see it until Thursday. But, still email me. Hey, go leave a review. 5 stars. Y'all know y'all want to. I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio. Bobby, Chris, Joe, Ricky Ticky, Marilyn, Phil, everyone over there. If you guys make it this far, y'all know the names better than me probably. Without Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing a podcast because I started my podcasting with them and they didn't want to talk about jiu-jitsu and sports and shit. So here we are. But if you don't like the show, go blame them. They're a bunch of dicks anyway. I want to give a shout out also to my other podcast, So You Like Horror. If you like scary movies and stuff, go check it out. This year we're working on cursed films and other, horror media as well. We'll be talking about Late Night with the Devil, probably the first Omen. We'll probably do a full Omen series episode as well if you're into that kind of anti-Christ stuff. Go check it out. It's a fun ride, a fun romp, and we have a good time over there. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out here to my guest over there at Crazy 88 MMA, Mr. Brandon Timmins. Make some noise for him. Just want another reason to press the button. But as always, we love you guys as listeners. We love our guests here as well. You guys keep listening, and we're going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody, and bye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.